Hello everyone, welcome back to Ballet of the Mist Block of the Month. I'm Adriane Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
And this is the October 2024 Block of the Month. And this beautiful block that we're making this month is a version of the block called Contrary Wife. Now, we have investigated this. We didn't look up why it's called that, but
No.
but we did notice that there are people interpret it differently. Some more complicated, some less complicated. We'll say this is medium complicated.
Right.
Okay. So, but we picked it because it follows under our what we set for this last part of the year, where we're going to have blocks that are made of half square triangles, squares, and rectangles. So this one just says half square triangles and squares, which are technically also rectangles.
That's true.
So yeah, we're good. So Shelley, can you talk about what fabric they need?
Okay, so there again, we're using our focus fabric for the year, which is Yalka, designed by June Smith for M&S Textiles. And you use this one if you're going to be turning your block in for the drawing for the guild.
Wait, can I interject right here? It's kind of weird. These blocks are not due until January.
That's true.
Because we're near the end of the year and we don't have regular meetings after October.
Right,
So.
right, yes. So use whatever focus fabric you want to use if you're not turning them in. Okay, so for this block, what you're going to need is 1 square of focus fabric that's 4.5 inches square. Then for the white, you're going to need 4 2.5 inches square blocks and 12 3-inch squares. And then for a light coordinating, you're going to need 8 3-inch squares. And for the dark, you need 4 2.5-inch squares and 4 3-inch squares.
Okay, so to make that a little more understandable, the plain 2.5-inch squares of the white and the dark are these. These are the white ones in the corners, and these ones here. So those are just cut, and we're going to use them how they are. All the rest of those become, other than the center block, become half square triangles. And we pair them. How do we pair? We pair the whites with
All the whites, all the lights and darks that are the 3-inch squares,
pair with a white,
which is also obviously a 3-inch square.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to take a 3-inch square, say like this, and you're going to pair it with a light or a dark, depending on which one you're working on. And we have a video that talks about making half square triangles called Half Squared, which you can refer to, but just quickly, the method we've been going with is you're either going to draw a single line right down the center on the diagonal, or you're going to draw 2 lines 1/4 inch away from the diagonal line. And if you do that, then those are your sewing lines.
Right.
Mine are just a guideline for the 1/4 inch. And you're going to sew them together on either side of that center diagonal. And then once you've done that, you're going to cut them apart on the diagonal. And then we need you to press them. And the way we want you to press them is all of the white and dark, you're going to press to the dark.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are your light and white, press half to the light fabric and half to the white fabric. Correct?
To the light and the white, yeah.
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 Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't sure what you said, light or white.
I said
time.
light. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're going to go half one way, half one way, half the other.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after you have them like that, then you're going to need to trim them down to a 2.5-inch square. So this is what it would look like untrimmed. It'll be like this, and it'll have the little pointy thing sticking out. And when you have it trimmed, voila, it will be smaller. It should be the same size as your 2.5-inch square blocks. So we want you to do that, and then we'll come back and we will talk about how we're going to break down this block and make it, because it's not hard. None of these None of these blocks are hard. No. This one's just a little fiddly.
Just more pieces.
Yeah, more pieces, but they're actually very easy to sew. All right, so we have all of our half square triangles created, and now we're going to set aside the ones that are made with the white and the dark coordinating fabric, and we're going to use the ones that are just the light coordinating fabric and the white, because this block is a 9 patch. If you break it down, there's a center square, and there's this unit which looks like a little flower, and this unit that looks kind of like an hourglass. Mm-hmm. And so we need to make 4 of these hourglass units and 4 of the flower units, and we're going to start with the hourglass unit. Okay, so the hourglass unit looks like this, and it can be made in 2 different ways, but the way I'm going to talk about matches the instructions that I have written in the notes for this video. So to do that, you're going to take your units that your half square triangle units, and you're going to have a stack of them pressed, 1 stack pressed to the white fabric and 1 stack pressed to the light coordinating. And we're going to take, keeping those stacks the same, on the same side, you're going to take 2, and I have 1 of each here, and I'm going to pair them up so a white edge is together. Like I was saying, you could do them the other way, but this just matches my instructions. So we're going to pair the white edge together, and we're going to do that all the way the same, keeping them the same. And I'm just going to chain, piece, and sew this edge. I'm going to fold this over, and because we pressed them different ways, now they're going to nest. So if we do that and we sew this edge, this edge, this edge, when we're done, you'll have 8 of those units that look like this. Okay, and when you get those done and sewn, then you're going to take them to the ironing board, and you're going to lay them out so they look the same, and you're going to press them all one way. It doesn't matter if it goes to the right, it goes to the left, just do it all the same. Because then when we make this unit, we actually take 2 of these and we turn one around, and now they're pressed opposite, right. So they'll nest again. So you've made all of those, you've got these, you're going to take 2 of these units, which I only have 1 right here. But here's another square, and there's 2 like sewn together, and you're taking and you're putting the white points so they're touching, and you're sewing that edge. So it's going to look like this. You're going to sew that edge, right. And then press it open, press the seam open, and you should end up with 4 of these. So we're going to come back with those 4 units done. All right.
All right, so we're getting ready to do the last 4 patch. That is the dark coordinating and the white. So for those, arrange them so that they're like this. This
isn't the arrangement of the final 4 patch.
This is where we're going to sew the two of the half square triangle to a one that's a plain piece. So we have white plains, unassembled, just squares, whites and dark coordinating. So this is 1 of each is all I'm putting here, but there's going to be, how many of these are there? 8?
4. You'll have 4 sets.
4 sets, but 8 things you're going to be sewing together first. 4 white ones and 4 with the dark coordinating. So we're going to do all of them. So arrange it this way, where you put the plain one on the left, and then orient all these the same on this side, with the white on the top, the angle going this direction, and then flip these over and sew on this edge, on the right edge here. Okay, so we'll do all those. And once you have all those together,
and then you're going to press.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. You're going to press to this plain one.
Yeah.
The white ones also press to the white or to the dark coordinating.
Yeah, so it's, press to the less complicated is what we normally say.
So let's see if I can turn this around and end up the right way, since these aren't sewn together. So then you'll turn it around and have it so it looks like your pieces look like this, sewn together. These are going to be sewn together.
So now, because we pressed to that less complicated plain square, and we've turned that one around, now they should nest.
Right.
When you sew these together.
Yeah, you're going to have the white in one corner and the dark quilting in the caddy corner from that. It should look like this, like your flower. You're going to have the dark coordinating with edges with dark coordinating against it on both of the edges here. So now we're going to sew this center line together.
And that seam, after you sew four, you're going to sew 4 of those units together.
Then you press that seam open.
Okay, so we're going to come back with those 4 made, and then we will have all the components of our final block. So now we have all of the sub units for the final block. So we need you to arrange them in front of you just like they look in the final block, like we have here, with your little flowers with the white corners pointing out.
Just a second. Just a thought to remind you, though, you should make sure that each of these is 4.5 inches square.
Right.
Before you start.
Yeah, so an easy way is this is 4.5 inches square if you cut it right. So you could just check, compare them to each of those. If they're not, you might have to trim a little or just take a little bigger seam, but watch your points.
Yeah, it'll make it a lot easier to assemble if they're all the same size.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to assemble this. Now we're going to we're going to sew these 3 rows together and come back with 3 rows. And after you sew, then you're going to sew a pair and then the other. Press the seams open. And actually, in case I forget for the next part, the last one you're going to press open too. From this point on, you're pressing seams open. All right, so we've sewn our rows together. Maybe some of us sewed an extra. I'm sorry, I forgot, and I started sewing them together. And I'm like, oh no, Shelley. But she didn't say I had to rip it out. That was nice. But we did realize something that we told you wrong. Of course. What of these videos would be an Adriane and Shelley video without that?
We kind of do it, and we make one ahead of time.
Yeah.
But we still
hopefully
might change. Yeah.
This year we're getting pretty lucky.
And sometimes we change our mind how we want to do things a little bit as we go.
And on this one, what we changed our mind on was a little bit of the pressing. And it was only on this middle row. And if you press them open, that's fine. But you could press this one to this less complicated block, to this center square.
Because a lot of times when I do pressing, I look at it and say, oh, it wants to go that way. Maybe I should just press it that way. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But.
And the main idea with pressing a lot of times has to do with you don't want to see this shadow underneath.
True.
Okay, so this quilt, because there's so much white in it, I'm guessing most people are going to quilt this with a white batting. So there might be a little bit of shadow from your fabric, but generally, even if you've matched your seams evenly, you've at least got the color of that piece.
That's right.
Is what's next to it. If this was going to be an award-winning quilt, which I hope one of you make one that's an award-winning. Then maybe, I don't know, you'd press them all open. Yeah. I don't know, it's tough. But pressing them open, then, we don't like, a lot of these just this year we've pressed open. But that's when you sometimes get issues with batting coming through the seams, because now the seam is, there's not a fabric under it, the seam to keep the batting where it should be. So,
but I must admit, a couple of the patterns I've done lately, the person with the patterns saying press them open.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of hexagon and
so it's not
triangle
uncommon
kind of thing. So so pressing them open isn't uncommon. Anyway, so back to that. So now we just last thing, we're going to sew these 3 rows together. Some of us have already started. And once again, we need you to press open. Only because with all these corners coming together, the half square triangles, it would be kind of lumpy.
Right.
And it would be tricky to figure out how to tell you to do it to get them to lay.
And we definitely
perfect.
think about that because we quilt our own quilt. So
Yes.
we think about those things.
Yeah. It's not fun breaking a needle when
Yeah.
you go over a giant lump.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll come back with our finished blocks. Oh, one thing, Shelley's reminder every time, make sure these rows are 12 and a half inches
That's
long.
true too, yes.
Okay. All right, there's our finished blocks. They look great. And like we said, this was probably the most complicated of the blocks. Not hard, but complicated.
Yeah.
The last 2 of the year are pretty easy, and they look really good. So we'll be back next month.